Hi, friends, and welcome to Costuming in Color, a YouTube show dedicated to showcasing amazing costumers of color and those that support them.
I'm Gigi, a cultural history buff, dabbleist, and historical costumer.
And I'm Noelle, a costumer who likes to play both sides of the historical and cosplay world.
Today, we are interviewing Nina. Welcome to the show, Nina.
Hello, thank you for having me.
But first, some house rules. The first rule of Costuming in Color is that you tell everyone about Costuming in Color.
Exactly. That way, even if you don't have people of color in your local groups, you can get to know some in our global community.
The second rule is that kindness matters. Aside from that, there are no rules. So let's get into it. Where are you from, and do you still live there?
So, big question. I am originally from California, so I am a Pacific Northwest transplant, and I currently am in Salem, Oregon, having lived in Washington a good chunk of my life.
Are they hostile towards you?
Are they hostile?
Yeah, everyone's like, go away, California.
Well, I happened to come up when I was 9 or 10.
Oh, okay.
So just kind of slid in there, and most people probably don't know I'm from California, but I am secretly.
I'm hoping to slide in. Everyone will know that I'm from California. I wear like I love California shirts all the time.
How will they know?
Details. How will they know? They will know.
Like, I don't know.
Because Californians don't have the Pacific Northwest nice yet.
Yep.
True. So what is your favorite thing about Salem, where you live?
It's close to work. So I work at the state capitol, and work in a state office building. So it's a commute. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't choose to live here. I think if you have families, I think this can be family friendly. I don't know what the diversity in the population is compared to like Portland. I mean, in Oregon, there's hardly any of us, so I don't know that anywhere. But Portland definitely has part of my heart when it comes to like culture and access to cultural events or just music venues or, museums, any of those types of things that I love to do that I really haven't been doing since I joined the SCA, and it ate up all my time.
That's awesome. I have a wonderful thing about Oregon for you. They are putting on the ballot this year to take slavery out of their state constitution. So that 13th Amendment thing about prisoners, hopefully coming out. So go Oregon.
I wouldn't be surprised if it didn't pass. So
I wouldn't be surprised either. That state's really white, but maybe Portland will pull it through.
Who knows? Kate Brown's out of, on her way out. So we'll see.
What is your social media or Facebook handle, and why did you choose it?
So people can most easily find me on the Voices of Color Skating and Stories page. And that is a show that I run with Gigi and with Jessica, who's not here today, but a show that we run about Skadians of color and their lives in the game and after the gate, because we don't stop being people of color once the garb comes off and the event is done. And so
what is a Skadian?
Oh, yes. A Skadian, so the Society for Creative Anachronism, is medieval recreation. And a Skadian is just someone who plays in that game.
All right.
So that show is probably where people can find most of the work I've done and most of who I am, really the authentic selves, and of Gigi. There's a couple of us who really run that show, and it's a place for, similar to this, for people of color to go and talk about themselves in an authentic space without fear of, being judged or repercussion, and find validation in each other.
It is a sister show to our show with a little bit more focus. Ours is more chaos.
Yeah, a focus, because like a lot of I will say our some of our vintage interviewees have said they don't feel like they're part of historical costuming community, and a lot of people in the SCA don't feel like they are part of the larger costuming community, because the SCA is more than just the clothing, right? It's a lot of experimental archaeology. It's a lot of like martial arts and making cheese and woodworking and so many other things that it's very niche. So I think that show it gives those people a chance to feel like they can talk about their stories, even though they don't maybe identify with most like mainstream costuming.
Yeah.
What is the costuming scene like where you live?
So I don't know much about costuming outside of the SCA. I will fully admit I fell into the Society for Creative Anachronism when I met my partner and was initially very weirded out by this very white space of people in costumes. And I love Halloween and I love to camp. So it was like the best of both worlds. So I think in the SCA in this area tends to be very Viking, like all things Norse all the time. So it doesn't matter what type of time period or focus someone has, they at least have one full Norse outfit. And that's just because of the weather. I mean, it's hot, and when it's hot, it's muggy. I think people like to have that garb they can throw on and just go. I think with the SCA, we tend to see, I mean, it's a white space. I mean, and I'm in Oregon, so it's a doubly white space. I think that we are just now starting to see some people branch out to their personal ethnic backgrounds and explore their ethnicity and heritage in the realm of the SCA, due in large part, in most part, to the efforts of people of color in the SCA who have said we need to expand past Western Europe culture, which was a change maybe 4 years ago, as well as oral traditions, oral history need to be respected, which is something that happened very recently from a very dear friend of ours. So we are starting to see an expansion in costumes that are more towards personal ethnicity and personal identification. And I think it's only going to grow from here. I think especially with the Indigenous, Native, First Nations peoples are going to have this platform that they've never seen before for self-expression and identity, that we're just going to see an explosion of personas from those cultures, and it's going to be absolutely fabulous.
That's
And
amazing.
you brought in some of your heritage. So recently Nina was honored by recognizing her as someone who was given a lot of amazing volunteer service in our organization. And so she received recognition as a pelican.
So did Gigi.
So did Gigi. And
And
so did our
so-
friend Jessica, another woman of color doing.
Oh, Jessica did it too? That's awesome.
And so
Yeah.
Nina has done a lot of work in equity and inclusion for our organization. And during her ceremony, because we model these ceremonies on historical ceremonies of becoming a peer, right? So basically it's your, I loved watching your elevation and your elevation outfit and all the things that went into making it. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. Well, the offer was completely surprising. And when I actually had a moment to think about it, I said, I want to bring in my Haitian heritage. My dad is from Haiti. When I first joined the SCA, it was Western European cultures up to 1600s. So Haiti was not an option. And the reality is, I mean, the history of Haiti is so convoluted when we talk about colonization, when we talk about slave trades, that I'd have to put effort into it, which I have, but that's a story for another time. And so I said, this is my opportunity to display my heritage in a big way. And so I took my current persona, which is French. So I decided that if I couldn't have a Haitian type persona, it would be either French or Spanish. And since I have a lot of family who settled in France, that I would go with the French persona. So it's French 13th, 14th century. So all the nice flowy gowns, but it put a Haitian twist on all of them. So I have the kind of traditional coardi, but there's Haitian ribbon on it. There's Haitian symbols. So there's palm tree stamps down one entire, it's a party color coardi. Down one entire side, I have gold palm tree stamps. And then I have, bits and pieces from Haiti all over the dress. I thought that I wanted to go, I wanted to go big or go home. And that was what I envisioned in my head. So I did that. That one did not leave my hands. And it was like, and I've only worn it once because that was such a meaningful journey for me to create this piece that is authentic, and it's based on a historical find, the party color and construction itself, but with the Haitian flair. And it was so meaningful to me, both in journey of creating it, of thinking about what elements I wanted to put in there, how I wanted to represent Haiti in this game that I enjoy, that I haven't been able to put it back on. I haven't found like the time because it's so precious. And then I had a bunch of Haitian food that my partner spent tons of time making. We had Haitian punch, which is very dangerous. It's left unattended because Haitian rum is a thing of just beauty. It touches your lips and it's just amazingness. Yeah, it was an amazing moment.
It sounds awesome. What would you say that your favorite time period and place is? Is it France in the 13th, 14th century?
So I don't know that I have a favorite. I like the construction of that time. I mean, you make one pattern and you can take that same pattern and make variations, and you have completely different outfits with very little trouble, right? So it's a mix of the colors and the fabrics and the patterns. So I do like that there's very simple construction. It's one or two patterns that then become this extension of whatever your mind can envision. So I think of the sleeveless coardies. I have some that are very simple, that are trimmed with some tiny pearls, and then I have some that have elaborate print and rabbit fur, but it's all the same pattern. So it's really easy to construct. It's just, it's only limited by whatever your mind can create. So I like that about the time period and the way that it may not have been specifically designed for a larger body, but as a larger person, it can be very flattering and very fit very well to a larger stature, that it can be a garb that is constructed for every person in every shape and size.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That's very comforting.
So how did you
say that Italian run is gorgeous? Like Gigi's clothing is just gorgeous. It's a little past my ability.
Gigi, would you like to tell us about your pelicanization?
Yes, please do.
Well, I mean, it hasn't all happened yet.
No, but you did sit your vigil.
I had a party and Nina was there. Nina was actually just so sweetly, knowing that I'm autistic, knowing that I have anxiety issues. She was really there for me this past weekend when I was going to have this big party to kind of celebrate contemplation of accepting the offer to join the Order of the Pelican, right? Because in history, when people join these orders, like the Order of the Garter, or they became a knight, they really had to think about what they were about to do with their lives. It was a vow that you were taking. Well, there were different vows for different orders, but so we emulate that by having a party on the night that you are contemplating your admission into these orders. And on Saturday, this past Saturday, man, Nina, thank you for being there for me. That was big. That was big. And I really appreciate that. So I got to dress in a really beautiful green dress I chose that was based on an Italian portrait. And I got to talk to people about what they think about volunteer service and what they think maybe my next step should be in the Society for Creative Anachronism, and how they see avoiding burnout as like tips on how to avoid that. Because when you volunteer for an organization that you love, especially where it's a nonprofit that we work for, so everything is done by volunteers, you can really get burned out because someone has to work. And if you're experienced and you have those skills of administration or some other like event prep job that you're really good at, you can be the one who always raises your hand for it. And so I really wanted to talk to people about how to avoid that and how to promote a culture of avoiding helium hand syndrome, where you just are always saying, I'll do it, because it's also supposed to be fun. It's also our hobby. And Nina also is someone I look up to as far as someone who has achieved a balance in that. So yeah.
It seems to me, I have a bunch of friends who are like Laurel's and whatnot, other peerages, and it seems to me like you work really, really hard and then you get your peerage, and at that point you are officially completely burned out. And you're talking about how it's a vow about how what you're going to do going forward, but a lot of those people will just like check out at that point, at least for a while, right? So that's good that you're thinking about that.
And I think Nina, I want to hear your philosophy on that, but I think Nina and I are two people who want to make sure that is a cultural change that we have, because we don't need to treat our volunteers in that way. It's not loving to do.
It's
So
not.
Nina, what do you think about that?
I think there's so many different factors that can make a difference in someone's journey after a peerage. I think for some of us who we weren't striving for the peerage, it came because we found something we're passionate in, and for us it happened to be changing society to be an equitable and inclusive game for everyone. That we found something we are passionate about and wanted to do, that a peerage came with it. We weren't looking for it. And I think that makes a difference in how you can see yourself once you've been given the peerage. For some people, they look for the peerage. They say, I want to become this peer. And so when they get it, they may not have anything that comes afterwards, because it is supposed to be this lifetime achievement, which Gigi's talking about culture change. That shouldn't be the case. It doesn't need to be a lifetime achievement award. That's what in our area, the Lion is called. But if you're only looking for that as an achievement and something you can check off, you're not going to have that what next. Once you're done with peerages, well, what next? I think that the people who tend to be able to work best through the burnout are the people who are there for community, who are there because they found a passion, something they are passionate about, and are there because they really want to see it become a better place. And that the peerage came because we were doing the work. It was a secondary effect. It was a happy outcome, but it wasn't the goal. And I think that makes a difference. But I do think for some people, especially when it comes to being a pelican is a job. They talk about being, I love that gift. They talk about a peerage being another job. It is. I mean, it's service. Service can take on many different forms, but you're still giving time, energy, blood, sweat, and tears into this game in some form or another. And we forget that this is a volunteer organization. So people have their lives outside of this, are doing this work, and you don't always see something in return. And there are problems with the way that we look at people for awards, such as, does someone have access to do different types of service across different kingdoms? Because that takes money. You have to have some sort of finances to be able to do services in different areas. And so we're looking at, well, those folks may not be seen, but they're working just as hard. So we don't want them to burn out with never getting a peerage, but they're doing the work, just not at a level we can see. So I think there's a lot of factors that play into what happens to someone after they get their peerage, if they get their peerage, and how we take care of them.
So Nina, how did you get your start in the SCA and costuming?
I met a wonderful human being who said, I do this geeky thing. And I didn't really have a choice. You support your partner in their endeavor, and she was stepping up as a leadership position in the SCA, which would require a lot of time spent. In her case, she was a baroness, which means you are in charge of, this group of people that live in the area you do, and it's more of a kind of manager position in a lot of ways, but you're also the face of the barony of the group. And when she stepped up, I stepped right in and started helping. And so I didn't have a choice in a lot of aspects, because my belief is, if your partner's doing something that you were there to support. I had never sewn a stitch prior to the SCA, like ever. I was not about that type. It never occurred to me that that could be fun. I didn't have any thought of making costumes. And I fell in love with it. I should have known though, because, I love Halloween. Like, that is my hands down favorite holiday. You can be anything you want. You can do anything you want, right? That is like my favorite time. But I never saw these types of groups as something I would find a place in. I mean, they're very white from the ones that I've experienced, and which has been very limited, and only since the SCA. I'd never heard of these types of groups. Like, when I was younger, we had our computer games, which were our fantasy type games, role-playing games. I didn't know there was anything outside of that. I'd heard about Civil War reenactment, but that sounds awful. So I'm not sure why anyone would want to reenact a war that was, anyways. I won't divulge into that, but really, I didn't know there were places for people like me. And I think there still are limited, and we are finding and creating our places, but I never would have expected that I'd be sewing a full set of garb to go to this event on a weekend in the hills where we are running around with swords and watching the horses gallop by. Like, that, who knew? Never would have considered that in my life. So I had an interesting start, and I haven't looked back.
I have a possibly controversial question.
Sure.
You call it a game. Gigi never calls it that. What do you mean by that?
So I've always heard people talk about it as a game, a hobby, a game. At the end of the day, it's not real. And for me, I think that's important to know.
Yeah.
Because there are people who treat this like it's life, and it may be the only thing they have in their life is the SCA.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is that at the end of the day, the game does end. The clothing comes off. Our hobby is, back in our crafting areas. But if we get stuck in this is life, then when poor behaviors happen, people don't address them.
Yep.
For many, many reasons. Oftentimes it's, well, this is a Duke. And I'm like, I'm sorry, this person is no one. They did something wrong. This is not a game. This is real life. And so that's where I tend to sit in. This is a game.
Yeah.
There are real life consequences that happen. So I don't want the two to be conflated. But hobby, I mean, I've heard people say that, but I hear
some people call it a LARP.
Some people call it a LARP a lot. There's a lot of pushback against the SCA being considered a LARP, just because if you are looking for a LARP, you'll probably be very disappointed if you show up at one of our events. There's no character sheet. It's just your
job is to make stew. Go.
Right? Like,
yeah, it's living history. It really is living history.
Yeah. I also think game is a good term to put what we do in perspective, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a social group that we're in. It's also a historical group that we're in. It's a lot of different things, but when we use the word game, it really gives our brains a chance to remember that this is fantasy. It's made up.
Mm-hmm.
It is play acting. It's not for real, and that real life takes a precedence over anything we do in this game. So
yeah, I think it's a good term. Like, I've never heard anyone call it that before. That's why I stopped and asked about it, because I was like, oh, that's an interesting take I hadn't heard before.
It's also, so I will fully admit, my worst subject areas are history and geography. Like, for the life of me, I excelled at everything except for those two things, and it's still true to this day. Um, and when I started, because of all these stereotypes and perceptions that surrounded the SCA, one of my first questions was, do I have to be a slave?
Yeah.
And so it's really important for me to remember that this is a game. Like,
Yeah.
no one gets to treat me like anything other than how I want to be treated, how I ask to be treated. Because this at the end of the day, it is a game. This is not reality.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
for me, it's important to remember that as we move forward through these very white spaces.
Yeah. I actually don't do SEA because I got treated badly the first time I went out too.
Wow.
For clothes, which was just like, guys, it's a game. Let it go.
And
So
some folks forget, and sometimes need just a little reminder, and that's fine.
yeah. What keeps you in the SEA though?
Community, by far. We've all had our negative experiences, and I definitely have. And for some of them, I've been revisiting as of late, because some areas are trying to bolster their membership, and those areas have notoriously been full of white supremacists. So I've had to relive some of those moments lately, but I stay because of the community. I stay because people like Gigi and Jessica, who are doing the work and who are making the changes. For my partner, who's in there trying to help change the way the Pelicans view equity and how we look for people who should be peers. For the people like our current king and queen, who are just some of the most amazing people that you will ever meet, the kindest people, who are all about people being treated the way they should be treated. It's the community. Selfishly, it's also the arts. I experience a lot of mental health issues, a lot of stress and burnout, because I do diversity, equity, inclusion work in my real life. And without the arts, I wouldn't be able to function. It is my outlet. It's when I'm deep in depression because the world is so ugly, I can find the beauty in the arts, and I can find a way to keep going. So community, arts, that's why I keep showing up. There's, at the end of the day, there are people who want to be better and who want to help things be better. And I'll keep showing up as long as they're there. That sounded really cheesy, but it is absolutely true.
No, I mean, like, I think cheese is good. I love cheese. But like, personally, I love cheese. But I also think, like, we shouldn't use that term negatively. Like, you should feel wholesomely about things. It's good for your soul.
Just like cheese is good for your soul.
Just like cheese.
I love cheese so much. I just have to say, one of my favorite things, I guess one of my favorite moments in the SCN, I know this is a question coming up, but it's a perfect segue into it, because there's one of my friends, her household is German. So she has the full-on Landsknecht, and like everything head to toe German, her camp, her setup, her cooking. Now, her cooking is amazing, but there's this, I don't even know that, I'd have to ask my partner what the phrase is, but there's a block of cheese that you take out, a ginormous block of cheese, and you put it by the fire, and as it melts, you literally scrape it off onto things, and you eat that all night. I mean, my soul is whole. I can't, that's like my favorite thing is when she does her cheese nights. It's cheesy goodness that is like melted by the fire, on the fire, and we're all standing around catching it fall off as she's scraping it and eating and standing in camaraderie, and it's amazingness. I mean,
I'm like, can I get invited to that party? Because that
yeah.
We're going to talk offline about who that is and where she camps so that I can make sure Noelle gets it.
I bought a medieval dress that has give for me to like unlace it a little bit to get cheesier. I'm
That's
ready.
right.
It is the most glorious thing. And there's an actual name for it because it is a historical.
It's like
historical piece.
There's restaurants that do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
don't remember, but it's a thing of beauty.
It is
And
really.
it just makes that moment. I mean, it's like we do it at night and you have your friends, your family gathered around some cheese. And it's a wonderful moment.
Gigi, I think she just found my in to SCA. I'm highly food motivated.
Maybe we could pull her in because actually, and Noelle, in your area, so there's the Ontario West War, right? And people come up from the West, which is California. And they have an area of the war called Cook's Play Date, where all they do, the whole event, is cook different things over fire. Yeah.
Can you just like show up and eat?
Yes.
Okay, then I'll go to
And they're
that.
from your area. So I should
don't
hook
like
you up
that.
with them to see if they could pull you into one of their events that's cooking. You should go to that.
I'm not going to West Kingdom stuff anymore. They're dead to me. I'll come to you though.
Okay.
Okay.
I can connect you with some Westies who are fabulous and have my stamp of approval. But Ontario West War is where she does her cheese of goodiness.
I'm
Ooh.
gonna go to that.
Excellent.
We're gonna do that.
It's down in Southern Oregon, so it's only a day's drive for you. And I will meet you there and I will put you up in my RV, Noelle.
Great. Air
Awesome.
conditioning. I love
It's
it.
So, and keeping kind of with some of the things that you've already talked about, is there something specific you would like to see improve in the SCA community at large?
Yes, and it all has to do with recruitment, how we find new members and how we treat new members. I shouldn't hear a story about Noelle, having this type of interaction, even though she's never said anything. Like we shouldn't have these stories about, when I tried to join the SCA, this and this happened and I just never came back. I think that shouldn't be a thing. So looking at recruitment, if you're going to recruit, you need to do so in an equity and diversity minded manner. Otherwise, we're just going to have the same, and this game that we love is going to die out and nothing's going to change. So I think the way that we do recruitment and where we recruit from, and then once we recruit people, how we retain them, how do we treat our new members? I want to see new members connected with people of, like hobbies or people in their area who can be that person who's like, yeah, I will take you to a game, or I will connect you with someone that I know is going to give you a fantastic experience. I met someone at work. I just met her for the first time last week, and she asked what I was doing. And I was like, oh, well, I'm going to a camping event. She's like, are you going to Tortuga? Now, Tortuga is the Pirates, so another group that does fantasy. And I was like, you're a pirate? She's like, yeah, I like doing the piratey stuff. And I was like, have you heard of the SCA? Right. And then we started the link and I was telling her about the SCA and she's like, that's fantastic. I said, but let me connect you with someone I know in your area who I know will take good care of her, and or I will be there. Because one, she's a woman of color and it's not easy to come into these places as a person of color. And two, I don't want to just send her on her way and potentially have a really negative experience and never come back, because I was telling her about it and she was like, oh my gosh, that sounds amazing. She likes to do the costuming. She's all about creating the outfits. I need to bring her in and I need to do it in a very welcoming and inclusive manner. And to do so, I'm going to do it with someone I know and trust, or myself. But it shouldn't have to be like that. Like I should be able to say, oh yeah, go to this event and you'll be fine. You'll be taken care of. But I know that's not the case. Yeah. So we have a lot of work to do.
Is there like a I'm new here tent?
There's not an I'm new here tent. There's an I'm new here position. It's the chatelaine who's supposed to be the like welcoming and here you are, show you around type of person. This is a volunteer organization, so sometimes we don't always have a chatelaine present at events, and or they may not be the most comfortable, the most knowledgeable in what they do. I'm also going to add in that a lot of us who play are socially awkward at times. And so trying to bring in new people can be overwhelming and can be anxiety provoking. So it really takes, I think we need a new position. I think we need something that your job is to go to the event and like all you do is anytime someone new walks on site, that is it.
Because like as a new person, I rolled in with my buddy and we saw all these people having a good time, eating all this food, camping, doing the things. They had big tents that are open on both sides. There was cooking happening. We wandered around and like tried to talk to people, but they were so in their little pods that like when you're new, you're just like, okay. And then we went and watched the fighting. And then we were like, okay, well, we're hungry, but there's no like food for, you can't buy food there. There's not like vendors at most camping events, right? So like we went home, you know? And if you don't know what you're doing the first time out the gate, you don't know you need to bring food and you need to like find a home, right? Yeah. Like, and there's no chair for you. There's no nothing, like you just sit in the mud. So I'm like, it would be cool if there was like a Charlie Brown style little pavilion that just like newbies could go hang out in and meet each other.
No, I think that's a great idea. Actually, I'm going to take that to my barony.
It's like awesome if you get sucked in by another person who's in a group and they can just pull you right into their little village. But if you don't have a village and you wander in there, you're like, you are an outsider.
And that's something I've heard people talk about with the SCA, like that if you want to join, you have to be kind of determined to do it.
Yes.
Because there's not like an easy way to do it if you don't know anybody. And it shouldn't be that hard. I at Ontario West War actually ran into a lady who was like, I found the SCA online. I wanted to do this. I kept going to events. I kept looking for people. I kept trying. You shouldn't have to be that determined.
Yeah.
If we want our organization to survive and attract new people, it shouldn't have to be that you know somebody with a modicum of like status in our society to join and have a good time.
And I'm a nerd. Like I would love this.
You
like,
are.
That's my jam, right? And I was like, no, I'm never doing this again.
But you're coming to my elevation.
I will come to your elevation because I love Gigi.
Well, and so you'll get to meet like the best of the best because I'll be there and we'll welcome you with open arms.
Nina will be there.
And I will be fed, which again,
you will be fed, you will be taken care of. I mean, yeah, no one should have to wander on site. I've wanted for the longest time, just some sort of pin. And I know it's not medieval or period or but I really don't care. The point is to say, hi, come ask me questions. Come, you know, if you're lost, come find me, come, I will show you my camp. I wish we had buttons that was just for that, because if I knew someone was new, I'd be like, hey, come, let me show you a camp. And I've done that. And I love doing that. I love showing people the places where I can find joy, because sometimes it is only in your camp. I will fully admit that. Like your camp is your safe space, it's your family. And so I love saying, hey, this person's new. They can come join this place because it's safe. We're all happy and we're all, you know, relatively normal, sane people. I don't know if that's a thing.
No customer is sane. That's not a thing.
Know, my barony, where I live, Salem and surrounding areas, like we are a bunch of the happiest misfits you'll ever meet. The most welcoming spaces for new people to come in. You can come into our event and you'll have 10 people like, who are you? What can I help you do?
Yeah.
Like, let me show you this thing over here. And then someone else is going to be like, but I want to show you this thing over here. That's how it should be. And unfortunately, you know, we're a quite large barony, but small group that a lot of people just play locally, but that's how it should be.
But if you are in Oregon and you are interested in the SCA, Terra Palmyra is primo people with primo hospitality. You will not go to their event and be like at a loss for like what to do or what to eat or where to sit. That won't happen.
No, they will take care of you.
Okay, let's talk about you and your stuff a little bit. What is your favorite completed project?
my Haitian garb for my step up. That was absolutely my favorite project. And it's still a project in the making. While I finished it enough for elevation, there's still some pieces that didn't make it on there. I also want a complimentary sleeveless co-RD to go with it. So I have, it's a Haitian inspired pelican sleeveless co-RD. So I still want to do that and kind of keep the tradition going of just having, weaving in my ethnicity, my heritage into all I do. My next project will be to find a way to develop a Haitian persona, but it's going to take time. It's going to take a lot of research. And right now I haven't had the spoons for it, but that's high on my list.
So I'm curious about, let's have a little levity. What is the silliest thing that has ever happened to you at an event?
The silliest thing. I don't know if it's silly, but when I ran this last art event, this kid, I'm still enamored by this kid, this little boy, just rough and tough tumble, comes up to my art little table and he's like seriously into this arting. I'm telling him like, oh, well, this paint is dry. So you add in a drop of water and then you really stir it and and he's doing these things and he's doing these things and he's having so much fun and he's just like taking it on and he's bigger than life personality and just having so much fun with the art. And he hands me this. So I gave everybody these cards to paint. So they had medieval designs and people were painting them, but he hands me this card and it has Groot. He has his self-portrait of Groot on there, who's one of my absolute favorite characters. I love Groot, can't get enough of him. And that little kid was just like, here's my Groot. And he was so happy with what he did that my heart was filled with joy. And he later gave it to me. I personally gave him a personal like prize for that because it was a competition and I gave him a little chess set because I heard that he wanted to learn chess. And we gave out tons of prizes, but he later came up and said, you like Groot, you can keep Groot. And I was like, awesome. That is what makes my life, just these little moments. But he was just, I still don't even know his name because he gave me like 5 different names and all of these clan names. He's like, Clan McClary. I'm like, I don't know what that means. I don't know who your parents are or where you come from, but you're welcome at this table at any time. It was one of those moments.
That's awesome.
And not quite silly, just heartwarming.
Do you have anything like sentimental or nostalgic to share?
I think that something I will never forget is we have an award, the Heart of St. William's, and it's one of the few populous awards. So person to person, you give this award once a year away to someone, and there's so many hearts. And I received a heart from someone who I consider to be a mentor. She was the first person to sit down with me over a plate of chicken that I burnt that wasn't very good. Aww. And teach me how to do inkle weaving. And I don't know if you both are familiar with inkle weaving, but it's this beautiful art. I mean, it's amazing the way you can take 3 or 4 strings of different colors and the way that you weave them come out with this beautiful pattern for a belt or for trim. But I had been very interested in it, and she took the time to sit down with me and teach me how to do that. And in the same vein, she also gave me the Heart of St. William's because of the kinship we both had. And she was an amazing person. And I think she's one of the few amazing people who is amazing all across the board and very worthy of being around other people. I should say that we should feel worthy to be around her because she's pretty amazing.
That's awesome. That's really nice.
I think we've brought up a couple events already in our discussion, but what events would you recommend for people who are thinking about joining the SCA?
Onto your West War, there's cheese.
Apparently.
And Ontario Westport is actually, I think, a good one, because while it's so big, I mean, it's massive. It's not as big as like Penzig, but it's one of the larger ones for our area. What I like about Ontario is you do have the vendors. You have the space that if you wanted to sit away from people and have your own little camp, that's okay. As a newcomer, there's always something to do. There are classes, there's fighting, there's vendors, there's food, amazing food after amazing food. But it's one of those events, especially if you have a lot of social anxiety like me, there's a lot of things you can do on your own as you're getting accustomed to kind of the atmosphere, although it can be overwhelming. Anything in Terra Primaria. So Bargamel's is our yearly bar event, which was named after Sir Dublin. There's a whole history there. But it's one of our fighting events, and it's very local and small, but it's just amazing people. 12th night, if you want to come for the costumes, it would be 12th night in our area. This is the one that people spend a year or more making one piece of garb to show off at 12th night, because it's a big, almost like a ball. I mean, part of it is a ball. And so you'll see these elaborate gowns that people make and have and wear just to that and then put away.
Gigi, we're going to have a discussion about that. This is the thing that she wants me to go to, where she's getting pelicanized.
Yes. And so you don't have to have elaborate garb. I plan on seeing if I can make something Italian, just, low key, just to wear for the ceremony. But there are people who will spend, thousands of dollars to either have something created for them or to create something for that night. But it's not a necessity. It's fun to watch. I will say 12th night though is like court for days. It's court for days and days, literally for 3 days. So it's
if you like lounging and eating.
It's lounging in the back, eating and listening to court, but there's fun and dancing at the end of the night. There are some classes. It seems to be more of a kind of go on your own, and you're either doing court or you're just hanging out. But if you want to see some garb, that would be the place.
Do you recommend Penzig?
I've never been.
From what I've seen, it looks like if you are new to SEA, like you can never expect what you're going to do near where you are to be like this. But if you want to never be bored, Penzig's the place to go.
But kind of like you said, like you need to have a camp. You need to have people that because it's a 2-week camping event. So if you don't have a camp with a kitchen and a food plan and a shower,
but you don't have to go for the 2 weeks, and you can stay in a hotel. Correct.
Okay.
You don't have to go all in from the get-go.
No, it is though. Penzig it's a city. It's built, it's designed to be a city. They have like their own police and fire and all of this stuff. Even though I've never been,
Burning
it's
Man.
Massive. It's Burning Man, yeah.
But there is a Facebook group. So if you don't know people and you want to find a camp, you can go to Penzig Facebook group and find someone to help you. And you're right, you can do a hotel and then drive in during the day. You can do little bites of it. For sure. So on Tier also,
Penzig, you can buy things.
So Penzig is in Pennsylvania, right? It's in Athelmark. So it's near the East Kingdom. It's near Athelmark. It's near Middle Kingdom. I guess it's in between those two. Ontario Westwar is in Oregon, which is part of Ontir. Ontir.org, ANTIR.org is the website for the kingdom, and it's Washington and Oregon. So to give you the layout of the land of where we're talking about, if you're in some other place, there would be another regional group or a kingdom for you. And you can find that at SCA.org.
So you're looking for things with the word war in them because they will be bigger, right?
Yeah. Typically, yeah.
And bigger means you probably will have more stuff to do and less clickiness. Is that true?
So you're going to want, it's difficult. You're going to want the wars, the inter-kingdom wars are typically the biggest. Because war can be funny because we have like Autumn War.
Yeah.
Wars, which aren't as
smaller wars
as big.
Just message me either right in the comments below, or or message me on Facebook, Gigi La Belladonna. And I'll try to hook you up with the right people. Yeah. Yeah. That way, if you have questions, I'll put you with someone who can answer them. How about that? That'll make it easy for you. I'll be the Chatelaine right now.
There we go.
Message me.
Excellent. What's your entertainment routine? Do you like listen to music? Do you watch movies? When you're sewing, when you're crafting, when you're doing non-at camp work?
When I'm at home doing my arts, I tend to have comedy on. It's either comedy or it's like Braveheart. Because I have to say, I love Braveheart. It doesn't matter how many times I've seen it. I am a sucker for Braveheart, like 300. You kind of see the gist of it. The ones with those love stories that aren't like the mushy gushy. They're the strong woman who's behind the strong man, and their love is like endless. And that's what I loved about 300. So first of all, I'm going to go on a tangent here in just a sec. Gerard Butler is a beautiful man. And so I can't even, like, with 300, it's beautifulness all the way around. I know that's not a word, but it's going to be a word for right now. There's beautifulness all around. I love the cinematography.
Yeah.
I love like the visual, the effects, everything about it.
The
But then you have
grittiness.
this, yeah,
The
then you have
ab
this
painting.
woman. No, they're not painted on. Dang it! Don't bust that myth for me. But then you have this strong woman. There's a really strong woman behind him, right? And there's those moments like, don't let your woman talk to me, and she's like, you're in the wrong place, right? But there's a tenderness in their love, and there's those moments where she's like, come back with your shielder on it. And for some reason, lines like that and those moments, they're beautiful. They're a thing of beauty. I don't like the whole mushiness. I love seeing the strong, almost dominant partner in the scene who really subtly takes it, right? And then in Braveheart, the end where he's like, freedom, and he sees his woman, and tear every time. Doesn't matter how many times I've watched it. So I'm a sucker for those movies. Gladiator,
Oh, I've never seen Gladiator.
What?
I've never seen Gladiator.
We have to do a watch party together.
All right.
Okay.
I don't know. Like, okay, so I don't watch war movies, but I if you have a sword, that's fine. Like, I just don't like gun movies.
So I won't watch war movies anymore. The last one I watched was Black Hawk Down, and after that I just can't.
Oh man, mine was like Platoon. My dad made me watch that as a kid, and I was like, nope, never again. So I've never seen any, like, I haven't even seen Saving Private Ryan or any of those.
I can't.
But I will watch
Roman. Yes.
I will watch Gladiator with you.
It's a deal.
Okay.
So for
all those.
Although I'm gonna be like, we're getting Warbler and we're gonna make some arbor.
Nina, who inspires you?
Oh gosh. I mean, I have so many people that inspire.
Gerard Butler.
It's beautiful. I mean, I don't know that there's any one person. There are so many people that I find inspiring in so many different ways. So like, I find Gigi and Jessica very inspiring when it comes to the DEI work. I don't think I would have continued, and Voices of Color certainly wouldn't be there if I hadn't found support systems within. Duchess Inga is someone whose soul is, she just has a beautiful soul, who has been an inspiration for the scroll work that I'm doing, for my scribal work and all things scribal, who's just a wonderful person. I think of their Majesties Octomasatis and Ashoxi, who again are just lovely human beings who you would want to have in your corner no matter what, because they will fight for you. In terms of external, oddly enough, I've always found inspiration in Marilyn Monroe, who at her time was not the traditional body that people wanted to see. And there's a lot with Marilyn Monroe, but I fell in love with Marilyn Monroe, Audrey Hepburn, some of the classic kind of movies and archetypes that we've seen throughout time. I mean, there's just so many. Grace Kelly, Billie Holiday. I just have so many. I don't think there's any one person. I'd say I can't pick one person. I don't think it's possible. I look to the Obamas, Michelle Obama. I mean, talk about an inspiration. The way that she handles herself with such grace and dignity and poise, and just her beauty, her humor, her intelligence. I mean, she's like a perfect role model. So yeah, I don't think I could ever narrow it down to one person or one group even.
Okay, an even more complicated question. What are you grateful for?
Actually, I don't think that's complicated. I'm grateful for the people that my chosen family. My chosen family. I'm grateful for my chosen family. We are born into the families that we have, which I happen to love and adore all my family, my brothers, especially 2 younger brothers. Can't adore them more than a sister could. But I am grateful that I have the chosen family I do, that when I need support, they're there. When I need comfort, I know who to call. With all the ups and downs that my partner and I have had during our lives, there are people who will jump right in, SCA or outside of the SCA, weekend, weeknight. They'll come over and they'll help because they're good people. Terra Primaria, like that's what we do, is we help. Without that community, there are so many ways which I don't think I would have been able to push through some of these difficult times that we've had. So I'm grateful every day for my chosen families, my chosen communities. Those are the reasons. They are the people that keep me around.
If you could give a new SCA member one piece of advice, what would it be?
Find your passion. Find your passion in your community, and those things will keep you there no matter what. It can be hard to do, but once you have your chosen family, you have your chosen community, you're in a good place. You'll find yourself.
If you have a closing message on inclusion or equity, we would love to make space for that.
As the world changes, we need to change with it. When we know better, we do better. We can't stay stuck in the past because this is how it's always been. We have to move forward. Like, we don't practice medieval times. We practice the times as they should have been. And part of that, as they should have been, means at the inclusion of everyone who wants to be here. I think that would be it. We know better and we must do better.
It's a game.
It is a game.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us today, Nina. It was lovely to get to know you a little bit better.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you also to our viewers for joining us today. We will leave a list of Nina's information down below so that you can go follow her on all of her platforms, which is not many, but you should just go to an SE event and meet her. That's the best thing.
I agree totally with what she just said. And please do give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, subscribe if you haven't, and if you have a costumer of color that you think we should interview, use the form that we insert in the description box below to tell us about them. Make sure to leave a little love for Nina in the comments below, and be excellent to each other, stay safe, and take care.
Bye, guys.